Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of the Shooter Straight Podcast. It's your co-host, Zach.
Mirko G.
Welcome back to episode 38. First and foremost, like always, we just wanted to thank y'all for all the continued support we've been getting on all social media platforms. We've been especially running it up on TikTok and YouTube recently. We have officially crossed over the 500 subscriber milestone. We're at 522 right now. So we just want to thank everyone for the continued support. We've been growing and growing, so we appreciate everyone. The comments, the engagement, everything. We just appreciate it, and we're going to continue to try to make out more content, post everything more. We got news, we got debate, we got all kinds of new types of content coming very soon, and we're just excited to keep putting it out for you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're super excited. You guys are able to help us get past 500 subscribers. Giveaway still going on. We got 3 people entered in. We just have 2 more spots. So you like we said in the original episode, just comment down below, leave your Instagram handle, and as soon as we get all 5, we'll announce it. And it's free money. I mean, you can't hate free money. We want to give back a little bit because right now there's not a lot of you, but we want to give some type of appreciation back.
Yeah, so like we said before, leave your Instagram in the comments down below with your @ so that we can get in contact with you once we go ahead and get all that settled. But it's coming very momentarily because we have obviously crossed 500 subscribers, and we're on the way to 600 at this rate. We continue to grow. So obviously this is the first podcast episode of the new year, so we just wanted to once again wish everyone watching a happy new year. Hopefully your holidays were very well with you and your family and all of that. But I think without further ado, unless you got anything else to say, we can go ahead and just get straight into these topics.
Yeah, let's get right into the first topics of the new year.
Yeah, so like always, we're gonna start off with the football, but soccer, whatever you want to call it. I like calling it football because that's what it is. But look, the Premier League is back up and running, as we know. We talked about it last episode. It's good to get back into the club football rhythm, and with that, there are always going to be question marks. There were question marks about teams coming into this, and now there are still question marks. So I think the first team that we wanted to talk about in the Premier League was Liverpool. And obviously there's a lot of things going on with Liverpool as a club at the moment. It's not looking very good, to be honest, if it where it's all headed towards. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to you. We got a few talking points here about Liverpool. But in general, what are your overall thoughts about the situation going on at Liverpool at the moment?
It's really dire at the moment. Like Liverpool to say they're underperforming would be an overstatement. I mean, they have been absolute shambles this season. I mean, before everything started, I thought they would always be Liverpool. I picked them finishing second in the league before the first Boxing Day, but now it looks like they're not going to even be within maybe the top 5 range. I mean, this team looked like it had a little inkling of maybe they had something still alive, but after the abomination they cooked up versus Brentford, losing 3-1 to Brentford.
Yeah.
I mean, Darwin Núñez can't throw a penny in the ocean. This guy, you can't gift him anything. I mean, we were talking about it last episode, how bad Darwin Núñez get. And, I thought it could be a reverse effect. As soon as we talk about him, he starts playing good or something. But it looks like there's nothing that there's no type of reverse jinx. There's no anything anybody could do to help this guy out. And he's become unplayable. They're putting all their hope on Gakpo to come in and try and do something with this team. But I mean, the real question this almost raises, and I wanted to ask you, is: are we seeing the end of that Liverpool era to where Liverpool, Klopp's era of Liverpool being this, this team that's competing for titles and competing in Europe at the highest level? Because it looks like this is coming to an end. I mean, unfortunately, we've got the chance to see, a rebirth of Liverpool. We saw them win a title since the Gerrard. I mean, how long is it since we've been able to say that about a Liverpool team? Since what, Gerrard slipped? We haven't gotten this close. And they finally did it, but now it's looking like it's just all crashing down. They've almost looked like they've fallen off a cliff, and it's weird because they still have that main core, but it looks like they're going to be missing Van Dijk for probably about 2 months, and that just adds insult to injury because this team was already playing poor even when it had Van Dijk.
Yeah.
Now they're not going to have him at all.
That's also going to affect their any kind of opportunity they have in the Champions League because I don't think he's going to be playing against Real Madrid. And if they had any hope, I mean, they don't really have it much anymore.
I mean, you're losing to Brentford. I don't think you're counting much against Madrid, but they're everything's going wrong for the club at the moment, and I don't see them signing Jude Bellingham. I don't see really this looking like a very enticing thing to go to. It doesn't look very enticing to go to Liverpool at the moment. But that is something I wanted to pose back to you. That do you think this is the end of Liverpool's era?
Well, I mean, look, if I'm being honest, I think it is, to be honest. I don't think Liverpool are going to be at the heights that they were anymore. Because let's just be honest here. When we think about that Liverpool side, they were extremely unlucky not to win more. They did very well in the Champions League, but in terms of the Premier League, they were very unlucky to not win more. It took an absolute Manchester City dynasty to stop them from winning more than one Premier League title. And the fact that the matter is, the one Premier League they did win, they had to be almost perfect to do it. It took all but
It
perfection.
was yeah, it was that near. People were gonna thought they were gonna go invincible.
Yeah, like that's what it took to knock off this Man City team, and that's why we talk about Man City. They are designed to win the Premier League. They find a way. They have a squad designed to win the Premier League. It doesn't always work in the Champions League, but their squad under Pep Guardiola wins the Premier League. It's almost a guarantee. It's there's three guarantees in life: death, taxes, and Man City winning the Premier League at the moment. That's just what it is. Obviously, Arsenal are looking to change that. But back to Liverpool. I think in general, I think that this is the end of the era that we're talking about of the golden generation of Liverpool. Because if we're being honest, they have not properly replaced the players that they have lost from that era. And I've believed this for a long time that Sadio Mane, maybe not the best player because Salah, but was the most important player to keeping everything together. He was so important to this Liverpool side, and they didn't properly replace him. And I understand they've had injuries. They thought Luis Diaz could fill the role. They thought he was going to take an advanced step forward this season, and he hasn't because of
To
injuries.
to be fair, he's injured, but
Exactly. No, but so they have suffered a little bit with the injury bug. But Darwin Nunez, he is not the guy they expected him to be by any stretch of the imagination. They spent, pretty much, what was it,
I think it was 80, yeah, 80
80
odd
million?
million.
Yeah, something like that, around 80 million to get him. You cannot lose guys like Sadio Mane and replace them with big money transfers that don't work. It's not a recipe to build back up to what you were. And ultimately, I don't see Liverpool really getting enough talent again. Because realistically, right now they're banking on Gakpo to come save their season. And, he might perform well. I don't know if he's going to transform, in the Premier League, you know, like uh like we would all hope, I guess, because he did very well in the World Cup, but when he was playing the top of the topper echelon teams, he didn't quite perform as much as you would have hoped. Even against the United States, kind of ghosted. Against Argentina, what did he really do? Not much. It didn't actually. To be fair, Netherlands didn't even score until he got subbed off. So it was not. It was a good tournament, but nothing great. So I just don't think Liverpool are signing the players that they need to sign to get back into their golden generation. And unfortunately, I think sooner or later, maybe not the end of this season, but if it keeps going the way that it's going, Klopp might be on his way out, and then that kind of signals the true end of it for me. I just don't think Liverpool are going to make top four this season. They might be lucky to get into the top six at this point. If they're gunning for maybe fifth or sixth place, and realistically, you know, they're gonna have to really turn it around in the summer in terms of getting some good transfer business because their squad is aging. Those core guys, Van Dijk isn't getting any younger. Salah's not getting any younger. And the young guys they did bring in, Darwin Nunez, he isn't really the guy you expected him to be. So their squad continues to age, and they're not really. There's no, shining bright light of okay, this guy's gonna save our future unless they get Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at how Liverpool got to that dynasty point, it's it kind of when you look back at it, it's fairly lucky. Like that's not sustainable. I mean, you sign Sadio Mane from Southampton, who turns out to be what he is, and then you sign Mohamed Salah, a guy who's been in the Premier League, bounced around club to club from Roma after one
Yeah,
season. He just so happens to explode, and then
and
you
nobody
get
expected that.
no one expected that. You get a Van Dyke for 75 million, but there's still question marks on him, and he turns out to be the best center back in the world, and stuff like this. Like a lot of things had to go right, and obviously they get Jurgen Klopp at the perfect time. It's things that it's unsustainable because you can't count on we'll just sign another guy from Southampton or a Roma to fill in this role. It's very hard to sustain that. That's why you see But, as much as people hold it against City, they splash the cash on everything that moves. I mean, if you have an inkling of talent, City are going to throw 50 million at you.
And
I mean,
and
that's
and for the
that's
most
always been
part,
their policy.
Man City don't really miss on transfers that often. I mean, everyone misses on transfers. You could say Jack Grealish was a miss, but for the most part, you look at Manchester City, they don't really miss on transfers.
Yeah, and
Rodri, amazing transfer, and you can just keep
mhm,
going down the line.
yeah,
Boom, hit after hit after
yeah,
hit, and that's what
Cancelo.
Cancelo. That's what keeps them at the top. They do not miss on transfers like Liverpool have.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of that also comes with they're willing to spend. I mean, Liverpool. I mean, there was a debate where if Liverpool wanted to give Salah a contract extension,
Yeah,
like this is it's a lot of problems within the Liverpool's hierarchy of how they run their
the
club.
team. Yeah,
They don't like to spend. Obviously, they're selling. I mean, they currently don't have an owner. I mean, for the situation that they're put in, it's not the bet. It's everything's falling down, and it seems, and it looks like they didn't hit on Nunez, and we don't know yet if they're gonna hit on Gakpo. But I mean, how good can Gakpo really be? I'm just gonna go out on a limb. He's not Kylian Mbappe. He's not
yeah.
Erling Haaland, and he's not Mohamed Salah.
To
So
be
I
fair,
don't.
I don't even know if he's going to be better than Luis Diaz. To be fair, I
Yeah,
mean,
like it's just a lot of question marks on him as a youngster, especially going into the Premier League, and to
and another
stand.
thing with Gakpo, we've seen other guys come from the Eredivisie. Anthony, for example, is supposed
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
that
whatever
guy.
happened after Anthony had 3 good games. Where has he been? I forgot he
Yeah,
even
he,
starts.
he did score today. To be fair, but that was the FA Cup against Everton.
That's
But my
FA
point,
Cup.
my point is, you have seen many guys from the Eredivisie. Some of them pan out, obviously, of course. Some of them are going to, but you see a lot of guys come to the Premier League from the Eredivisie, and they don't really perform quite as well.
You can see
Gakpo.
that, yeah. In general, even
Yeah.
really, I mean, any players
Gakpo
that
tore
come to the
apart
Premier
that
League.
league, but I don't know if it's going to translate to the Premier League. And that's my main question mark. And because they're really, if Gakpo doesn't come save their season, I mean, as it stands, I mean, it ain't really going anywhere. This squad is not getting any better.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, to stay at the top of the game like Manchester City, one, they're not they're not as financially backed as City, and even when City do splash the cash, they don't really miss. I mean, they like you said, they don't really miss on their signings. I mean, let's just look at Jack Grealish, yeah, but I mean Jack Grealish isn't horrible. It's
No,
just that
no.
they have so much
Too many
talent that
guys,
they
yeah.
just don't play him. I
If
mean,
Grealish got more opportunities, I'm sure he would be better than what his
I'm
record
sure he'd
shows.
be a decent player. I mean, I
Not
think
100 million, but
he's decent, but like he definitely would play more if he didn't have to compete against who he has against him, like Bernardo Silva and Gundogan and all these other guys. I mean, it's hard to get in there, especially when you have one bad game and you're immediately at the team.
yeah. And he only really gets opportunities in like cup games at this point because that squad is so stacked. And
I
given
mean,
where they
yeah,
are in the Premier League, they don't really have much points to drop here. They have to go on a
and
run.
especially when I mean we're gonna talk about Chelsea in just a minute. I mean, what City did, they subbed in Riyad Mahrez and Jack Grealish, and they linked up to
They
create the
did.
goal, the win them the
Yeah.
game. So I mean, it's a bit unfair. I mean, for City to be able to just call on their bench and be like, oh yeah, Riyad Mahrez and Jack Grealish, just come on at the 60th minute, like. It,
It's
but
pretty
it's Man
daunting.
City. It's they've always been so deep, and to compete for that with them, especially when you're not as financially backed like Liverpool, it's like David versus Goliath, man. It's not really going to be sustainable. It was a nice story, Liverpool to be able to take it to City, and the little guy finally getting back at City. But at the end of the day, there's City have an endless pool of money, and they're willing to just throw at anybody.
And it's not like, if you look at it on face value in terms of just, what the trophy count and all that, you would say City have been better, but Liverpool got what Man City still are after. They got those Champions League. They have that. And that golden generation got that for them. And although against all odds, they did it. And
And City had an opportunity to
they
be in that
did.
final as
They
well. I
did.
mean, they lost to what was Spurs, I believe. They lost Spurs.
Yeah, they lost to Spurs.
Yeah, they lost on away
On the,
goals.
the VAR, yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I mean, Liverpool, you can't look at this golden generation. If you just look at it at face value in terms of the trophies, they only won one Premier League, okay. But this was a success. It was a massive it came out of nowhere to a certain extent. And I give this Liverpool team all the props because this was an incredible, incredible Liverpool team. And it's just, unfortunately, it seems to be coming at the end of an era of some sorts. They are not going to be that team that they were. But I tip my hat and I say this was an incredible, incredible Liverpool side. Arguably, you could make the debate that they are one of the best Premier League sides of all time because of what they accomplished. I mean, they even though they weren't able to always knock off Manchester City, and Man City would have a couple other teams that they would say is up there with the best Premier League 11s of all time, Liverpool has to be in that debate just because of they were right there with Manchester City neck and neck every single year. And I'm not saying they're number one, but I'm saying if you're making a top 10 list, this Liverpool team is going to be on there, no doubt.
Yeah, top 10 teams of all time in the Premier League. I would
No
agree with
doubt.
that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that they had to come up against some of these Man City teams, because they would have, in the way we talk about this Man City dynasty, it would be the Liverpool dynasty with 5 Premier Leagues and however many years, 7 years.
Yeah, if City didn't exist, it would just be Liverpool's. They would just fill in the void of City, but that's
not how football works.
That's not how the game works. But
they were just that close from being there every single time, and
yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it seems to be that it's going that way for Liverpool. Anything in it's football, anything can change. But the way it's going at the moment, it's just these guys are not getting any younger, and it's not. They're gonna have to fill some of these gaps with some new talent, and I don't know if that's gonna happen. That's what it ultimately comes down to for Liverpool's future.
Yeah, and I think that makes it a team. Talking about a team that's been this close for a while to switching to a team that hasn't been this close in a good little while.
At least in the Premier League.
At least in the Premier League's sense. And that would be your Chelsea, the Blues. And right now, it's not looking good. It's not looking good to be a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
And I think before we dive into the meat and potatoes of what we're gonna get into, we did want to touch upon we got it wrong. We came on here and we already stamped the shoot it straight approval that looked like Enzo Fernandez was already packing his bags. He was already looking at at apartments in Chelsea and London. It was gonna be all high and dandy, agreed the personal terms, and then we got shocked. Fabrizio Romano said all negotiations have broken off, and it looks like Chelsea will not be getting Enzo Fernandez. So I wanted to get your first initial opinions on this and just your overall thoughts on it.
Well, when I saw this report at first, obviously it's a little disheartening because it's like, we thought we were getting this guy. We thought, he was going to be the guy who comes in and saves this midfield because God, this midfield is absolutely terrible right now. But when you take a step back and you look at it from face value, I think Chelsea has done the right thing here. And it might sound crazy because we're not getting
Chelsea's done the right thing.
They're not getting the talent of Enzo Fernandez, and someone is going to get him at some point. But I think that the 120 million price tag is just too much for him. I just think it's too much. I think that this money can be spent better than on one guy, Enzo Fernandez, who 12 months ago was 6 months ago was joining Benfica for just 14 million. I mean, that's like what a 100% increase of value just in the 6 month period, mostly because of the World Cup. He has not proven enough to be worth 120 million, the biggest signing in Premier League history. I just think that we offered 87 million. That was supposedly our final offer. That's what we put on the table. We said we were going to give you 87 million, and even that's probably it's a more fair offer than 120 million, but even that's a lot. But that's what we said. We said 87 million, take it or leave it, and it's looking like it's not going to be the case. They are sticking true to their guns. They want 120 million. I would imagine at some point somebody's going to pay that, but I think Benfica, they're doing the wrong thing here because anything can happen in football, and you don't turn down that kind of money. This guy could get injured. He could start going on a bad run of form. That price is only going to go down. This is the most expensive this guy's ever going to be, and they're turning down these offers. I don't think that they're making the right choice here, but I think Chelsea did. It's unfortunate that we don't get this guy because of how talented he is and what I think he can be in the future. But I think we're making the right decision in terms of value for money. Because we can still sign some other guys here. We don't have FFP crawling on our back, knocking on the door saying, we're coming for you.
Financial
We're
fair
avoiding
play.
that. And so far in this January transfer window and looking forward to the summer, right now, Chelsea is getting linked with absolutely everybody. So I think Bowley is obviously not afraid to spend, but it's nice to know that he is at least taking into consideration it's not just throwing money at everybody. He's at least being somewhat smart and saying, we're not going to get finessed here. We're not going to overpay for these guys. And that's something that is good because I think some people don't really think Bowley knows what he's doing. If I'm being honest, I think some football clubs look at Bowley and say, I don't think this guy knows what he's doing. We can overcharge for our players. And by doing this, Bowley is going to prove that you can't just overcharge Chelsea. We have overpaid for some guys, Mark Cucurella and a couple other guys. We've overpaid, but I think
Fofana.
Fofana. But I think by doing this, it might stop the bleeding a little bit. So all things considered, I hope we can still find a way to get it because Fabrizio Romano did say it's not completely out of the cards, but I doubt it at this point. And I think as long as we spend this money to improve the squad on other players, I'm okay with it.
I think you're somewhat downplaying this. I mean, I'll give credit to Todd Bowley. He's going out there. He's active in the transfer market, but we cannot act like he's not overpaid for players.
Yeah,
Because he
I
clearly has.
admitted. I
Yeah,
admitted that.
and that also plays into the role that you overplay for too many players. Now you start to worry about financial fair play, and unfortunately, when you get to that point to where you have to worry about financial fair play, and there's players like this available on the market, your hat's out of the ring. And I think they needed to make this signing. I think they had. Uh, do I think he's worth 120 million? No, but I think it's a signing that Chelsea needed to make at the point to where they are because this is a disheartened football club. They're playing with no passion. They're playing pathetic football. I mean, they're right smack dab in the middle of the Premier League table. They're 10 points and they're 10 points away from relegation. They haven't beaten a top 6 team since October of last year. They are not in a good place right now under Todd Bowley. I mean, I will give him credit for being active. He went in there and he said, "I'm going to make changes. I want to show this the fans that I want to win now." But there is a bit of he's not making the right moves when he has to. I mean, I think the Nkunku deal, spectacular deal. You were
Yeah.
able to get it done. That's the best signing for Chelsea probably since what, N'Golo Kante, really? Like that's
Wow,
up there.
Jesus, that's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago, but it's up there with one of those upper echelon signings. But missing out on Enzo Fernandez could be highly to the detriment because I mean, who knows that if Enzo goes to United and now United that goes to a direct competitor, you have to. I think you have to look at it to more that Enzo's on the table. There's not a lot of young talent players that are such a high prospect like Enzo Fernandez, maybe other than like Jude Bellingham and who else. There's not a lot of times where there's people
Especially
available.
for midfielders, at the
Yeah,
moment.
especially
It's right now it's
people that are
Enzo and
available.
Jude, those are the top two.
Yeah. There's never they never really come available like this. And yeah, it's 120 million, but that's how the market is at this moment. It's inflated. I mean, yeah, a couple seasons ago in this same situation, you could be getting him for 50 million, and people would say, "Wow, that's kind of high." But in this current market, that's what players are going for. I mean, Paul Pogba went for 100 million when he leaving Juventus at the top of the game. I mean, things are going to inflate and change, and I think this is a deal Chelsea had to get done, especially where they're at. They needed some type of, especially like a young player like Enzo Fernandez to just ignite the midfield and give the fans some hope. I mean, they're playing uninspired football. It's horrible to watch. Graham Potter
We'll get
starting
into them.
off starting off pretty well, but starting to hit a rut of poor form with this club, and it's leaving a lot of question marks.
So you think even with the 120 million price tag, that is not gonna? Benfica have already said they're not budging on 120 million. You think that Chelsea should have said whatever, we got to pay what we got to pay?
I mean, other than that, who else do you get realistically? I don't, because I would agree maybe like, oh, we can there's some other semi decent people, but like it's kind of like you're shooting in the dark. You're getting these guys like I'm sorry, I can't even. I don't want to butcher the guy's name that they just signed, but is he? They're signing a.
Badiashile?
Yeah, they're buying a bunch of
He's a
defenders.
center back.
He's a center
Yeah.
back. I mean, how many center backs do you need, man? Like, what are you trying to build here? The Great Wall of China? You're trying to buy up every defender got on God's earth. Like, what? That's not what you need right now, especially when you're having a striker crisis. You're playing Kai Havertz and Aubameyang at striker. Aubameyang
Yeah.
looks. I mean, Aubameyang's the worst thing to a striker pitch I've seen in a long time. I mean, he looks abominable.
I mean, we
And
knew he was washed, and we still brought him in. We had
he's
nobody else, to be fair. I mean, we
you,
had
you
no
brought up
option.
you brought Aubameyang in for Tuchel, then you fire Tuchel. I don't even get how that works. And now you're playing Kai Havertz out of position where like I kind of agree with you when you mentioned this before. Chelsea have never played Kai Havertz in his actual position.
Yeah,
It's like
that's one of the most annoying things for me.
you
as a fan.
signed him just to play him at striker. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, might as well keep Timo Werner, as bad as he was. I mean, might as well keep him. Shit, you have
We won
nobody.
a Champions League with them, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he scored against Madrid. I mean,
did.
come on, man. I mean, but yeah, especially I think they should be spending more money, maybe signing more attackers, not defenders, and sign a midfielder, sign Enzo, because where else are you gonna really realistically do with that money? I mean, people say financial fair play, To be honest, I don't believe in financial fair play,
You
man.
don't believe
I
in
don't
it.
believe in it. It's just hogwash, some bullshit they try and push out. Oh, we can't get him because of financial fair play. Where has financial fair play been with Man City? You tell me Man City has able to spend 1 billion in like what 3 seasons, and as big. I mean, we've saw that at points Man City were begging fans to come and watch them. It was the empty hat. It wasn't the Etihad. It was the empty
Yeah,
hat
the empty ad.
because fans weren't showing up because they barely got any. So where is all this money coming from? Because everybody knows financial fair play works that you cannot spend more money than the club generates. Realistically,
Yeah.
that's kind of how it works. Man City is not making no $1 billion in three seasons.
They're money laundering.
They're money laundering. I don't know what they're doing. This is some Better Call Saul shit. I don't know
Oh my
who
God.
they got up there doing their books, but I mean, I don't know, but I think they should have done it. They should have just brought Enzo in. It would have brought the locker room up, because it's like that to me is more of a statement. I mean, you get a new owner, and the new owner's like, you know what? He just broke the record for a Premier League signing. That's how serious he is about it. And I mean, we can say that Enzo, it's overpaying, but you're always paying for the end picture.
Potential, yeah.
The potential of what he could be, and he has a lot of potential.
I think you make some good points, and it's not like I wouldn't want him to be signed. Like if we did pay the 120 million, I might still be out here saying, well, I did, to be fair, when we did think that it was going to happen. I said that it is probably an overpay, but I mean, it's not like we haven't paid a lot of money for guys that I don't think are going to be near as good as Enzo Fernandez. We paid, well, it's close to 100 million. I think it was 90 or 80 or something like that for Fofana, and I don't think he's going to be a great.
That hurts my head. Every time I hear that, it hurts my head.
I don't think he's going to be like a top 5, even top 10 center back in the world or anything like that.
How do you spend 100 million on a center back that's not even going to be top 10 in the world? That breaks my mind. That is the dumbest bit of business I've seen in sports in general. Almost.
To be fair, he was he hasn't even fully gotten to showcase his ability at Chelsea because he's been injured.
I guess.
That also plays into the fact he's injury prone.
Yeah, in the little bit that we've seen him, I mean, it hasn't been anything spectacular per se. I'll just say that, but maybe you'll prove me wrong. I said similar shit to Eder Militao, and he fucking made me look stupid.
And we have overpaid for a lot of guys. In my opinion, Marc Cucurella is not good. He's just not really good.
Does he start?
He's been starting, yeah.
Hey, I mean, get your money worth. Worth.
He's not great by any stretch of the imagination. Against
you were
Man
so
City,
happy when they got him.
Against Man City, when he wasn't terrible, but it's not like look. Remember prime Marcos Alonso when he was playing for Chelsea?
I mean, Marcos Alonso was
he's not like
good.
He's not even as good as Marcos Alonso at the time.
No, absolutely not.
And he can't even be better than Marcos Alonso. I mean, prime Marcos Alonso was incredible for Chelsea, and then he did fall off.
What was that? The 2018 season, I think. 2018, 2017.
I think it was 2017, 2018.
Yeah. I mean, that was his, his one. I mean, he was all over the place. But
yeah,
especially for that Conte side, how they had him playing. But that's another funny thing. I mean, Chelsea saved City from another miss. I mean, City wanted him, and we were just talking about how City don't
Yeah.
miss,
No,
and
Chelsea bailed him out.
Chelsea bailed him out. So I
But
mean,
I think, look, there's still a lot left to be said in the January transfer window. It's look, every single
no,
time
we're
I
not
wake
even
up,
halfway through.
every time I wake up in the morning, I check transfer news. Chelsea's linked with a new guy. Every single day, Chelsea's getting linked with a new
Link
player
with
out of
somebody.
nowhere. So God knows at this point who Chelsea is going to sign. How it's going to end up are we going to end up paying the money for Enzo Fernandez? It could happen. I mean, Bowley, but you never really know what to expect with this guy. He might wake up one morning and say, "Fuck it, I'm writing the check." You just never really
Yeah,
know what to
you
expect
guys
with this
wanted to
guy. He's a
treat him
loose
like some
cannon.
type of luxury car, make installed payments or something. What is this shit?
He,
Man, I would have been the same thing as Benfica. I'm gonna say, what you think? What the hell do you think I am?
look, that's what.
Installed payments.
Well, whatever.
They're gonna run your team's credit score or some shit. What is this?
But I think we'll continue to talk about the transfer window and how that's going to affect every club going forward. Whether it's Liverpool or Chelsea or any other club, Manchester United, who's linked to a lot of guys. But I still think there's a lot to be said about Chelsea outside of the transfer window, just about their performances in general. And this is a talking point that I want to get your opinion of first. I have my opinion, and look, we this has been debated since he got sacked. And now that it's easy to say this in retrospect, but now that we know how it's all kind of played out so far, do you think Chelsea made the right decision getting rid of Thomas Tuchel at the time and bringing in Graham Potter?
I feel the same way I did when it happened. I think they sacked him way too early, way too soon. I mean, especially for a manager that immediately got success. And this is my this has always been my problem with football. This is what I've always talked to you about a little bit on screen, but mostly off screen, that I don't like that clubs and teams and fans don't give coaches enough time, in my opinion. I mean, look, Chelsea were underperforming even when Tuchel's last stints and last games. I get that. But you have to understand the potential that he can bring this team up to. I mean, he brought them to champions of Europe out of nowhere. Like realistically, who saw that coming? I mean, to beat Manchester City in the final. I mean,
This is
Kai
David versus
Havertz scoring.
Goliath.
I mean, it's literally improbable, impossible. I mean, this is a guy that was said in the media to be a loser. I mean, this is a guy that went to Paris Saint-Germain, was given a war chest of nuclear weapons, and he couldn't get it done. And he goes to Chelsea.
1 year
You know,
later, wins it.
and Chelsea, who they don't have no one near Kylian Mbappe, they have no one near Neymar, but he somehow transforms this team to play a level of football that can win the Champions League. I mean, that's unprecedented. I mean, there's
And
not.
he also took us to other cup finals as well. Took us to the FA Cup
I think to
final.
the
Took
FA
us
Cup
to
final, yeah.
although we ended up losing that, but he still took us to finals. We were getting to the opportunity to win trophies.
Yeah, and obviously, eventually, not everything in football. I don't know if like people don't understand that it's not always fairy tales. I mean, this team hit a wall. That's gonna happen, but you have to back your manager. You have to back the guy that took you to the final and won you a final. Look, and I get Todd Bowley. It was a switch, and Todd Bowley came in and he's new and he wants to redo his all things. But Todd Bowley, you have to understand, this guy took this team of basically nobodies. I mean, they had really, really good players, but nowhere near what you think you would need to win a
Win a
Champions
Champions
League.
League. Yeah.
And they did it. Solely because of that guy, Thomas Tuchel. I've always loved Thomas Tuchel. And
Good
I think
man.
it's crazy that he's in the open market and he's able to, for clubs to get him, and no one's really, pounced on him, because right now it's mid-season. It's hard to just, bring on a manager. A lot of that has to be perfect circumstances of that. Oh, we're sacking this guy and this guy happens to be on the market. We'll get him. That's kind of how it is. But just what he did with that team, he deserved better than that. Just to be, sacked after what I think they lost. They lost or drew in the Champions League to some team I've never even heard
Oh, it
of.
was
I think
Dynamo Zagreb.
yeah, it wasn't it. Yeah, they're like the Ukraine league or something.
Russian league, I think.
No, I don't think it. I don't think it.
Dynamo
Russia.
Zagreb. I think that's Russian.
What? let's
The
just
only
say
the
a
only Uk-
obscure team, an
yeah, the
obscure
only
team.
Ukrainian team I know is Shakhtar Donetsk.
Shakhtar.
So I don't think
Yeah.
it was them.
So the obscure team, and yeah, they played bad, and Chelsea were playing bad. But guess what? You switch managers, and they're still playing bad. I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna happen. It takes time. It takes time. I mean, you see what Arsenal are doing with Arteta. You give them time. You have to give your managers time to be able to imply, to get some players out that they don't want and sign players that they do want to fit the system that they're trying to play. It takes time. That's not going to happen within a season. That's not going to happen within one summer. So I think this is what was expected. I mean, did I think that Grant Potter was going to come in and just change it like that? I mean, make these players start playing good? Absolutely not. And that's what's happening. I mean, they have
Yeah.
a personnel issue, not a coaching issue. They don't have a striker. They don't have a nine. They don't have an identity right now. They don't know what style of football they want to play. They played somewhat well versus City. They had some bright spots. They missed some chances. They hit the bar,
They hit the
but
post. Yeah.
they're just playing a style of football they don't really know yet. I mean, Graham Potter's trying to now implement and play. He's on the back foot, and now I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I've seen it roll around Twitter a little bit. Is it time for Grant? Is Graham Potter a failure? Is it time for him to go? I mean, like Jesus Christ, man! I mean, give managers time. It's so hard to just be thrown into the fire and make something out of that. That's not going to happen all the time. You have to give them time. But this is something I did want to also ask you because you watch this team in and out, and obviously as a neutral, I just feel more for the manager. I feel more for Thomas Tuchel, for what he did to be kicked out like that. But I do want to get your opinion on it.
Look, grass isn't always greener on the other side. And
Second,
that's the epitome of what happened here. You know, Todd Bowley came in, fired Thomas Tuchel, and thought that he was going to bring in Graham Potter and grass was going to be greener and we were just going to go on a magnificent run and I don't know, compete for the league. I don't know what he thought. Quite clearly, that just did not happen, and I think it was a mistake to sack Thomas Tuchel. Although, you could say we were underperforming at that time, weren't playing our best football. I think based on what this guy did for the club alone, you had to give him a little bit more time. I don't think he was worthy of being even on the hot seat at that point because of what he had done. And although it was a slow start, I still think that he could have found a way to figure it out. I mean, this guy is one of the best managers in the world. He won us the Champions League with that squad. He managed to squeeze out every bit of talent out of the guys that we did. He managed to make Kai Havertz good enough to score in a Champions League final. And he found a way to use Timo Werner even when he was out of form and get the best out of him, which was not much, but you got the best out of him. He made Jorginho play well. I mean, he made a lot of these guys play well. Thiago Silva was on the form of his life under Thomas Tuchel with Chelsea. I mean, he turned back the clock to when he was 27 and he was 36 at the time. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. And I think he did a lot for this club. Players like to play for him in general. And although it wasn't the most beautiful attacking style of football all the time, it got results. And if there's one thing we know about Chelsea is that it's not always about the football that's being played. I mean, probably one of the best managers in club history, if not the best manager, was Jose Mourinho. And he's the epitome of grind out results. And results is what matters. It doesn't matter about the football that's being played. It's about the result that happens at the end. And Jose Mourinho is the epitome of that. And that's the best manager in Chelsea history. Thomas Tuchel was similar in the sense of, look, it wasn't always tiki-taka, genius possession, beautiful ping, 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 attacking Pep Guardiola football. But we beat Pep Guardiola in a Champions League final. He got the job done. And I just think that Todd Bowley was in a little bit too over his head. And they had some personal disagreements. And he couldn't put it aside. He couldn't put his personal things aside and do what's best for the football club. And that's on Todd Bowley. He couldn't put it aside and do what's best for the club. He sacked them. And this is what we've gotten. I think it was a mistake to sack Thomas Tuchel. And I agree with what you said. Managers do not get enough time. The epitome of this is just last season, before this Premier League season started, people in Arsenal fans, they were calling for Arteta's job. Get him out. Sack Arteta. He's ass. He's not a good manager. He's a fraud. This season, top of the Premier League, what is he? It's 5 points clear at the moment of Manchester City with Erling Haaland. This is the best Man City we might have ever seen, and Arsenal are 5 points clear of them. And it happened in one season because Arsenal, they didn't make a rash decision. They stuck with their guy. They believed in the project. They trusted Arteta, and this is what it got them. And I give mad props to Arsenal for doing that. They stuck with their guns. They went with Arteta. They gave him the proper time, gave him some signings, and this is what happened. In a lot of cases, sometimes the managers get backed with good transfers, but not every time do they actually get the time to implement these guys. And in Arteta's case, he didn't really have that much time with either. They gave him another season, which was this season, gave him some transfers, gave him another season, and this is what you got. If this doesn't prove to people that managers need to get more time, I don't know what will. I still think it's a case of it's a problem that's never going to go away because people are so desperate for results and fast. And if they don't come fast, the only thing you can really change in football overnight is the manager. So I don't think it's going to change, but I think it's a big mistake to sack managers too soon. And it's a tough decision, obviously, but I think there's a time and a place, and there's always a good time to sack a manager. The writing is on the wall to a certain point, but sometimes before the writing is on the wall, they still sack the manager too early, and unfortunately, that's what a lot of clubs do. It's what Chelsea is known for doing.
I mean,
So I
same
just
thing
think
with Antonio Conte. I mean,
I
when
think
when
that
he left, they didn't back him enough.
exactly. So I just think it goes for all clubs in general. I just think managers need to be backed more. I think Thomas Tuchel should have been backed. They should have kept him. And kind of leads me on to my next point. And you talked about Graham Potter a little bit. Obviously, he's the one who replaced Thomas Tuchel. Look, it's easy to sit here and reflect and say, oh, we shouldn't have got Graham Potter because we should have Thomas Tuchel. But you can't go back and change the past. Graham Potter's here right now. And he's a good manager, a good young manager. And people are already calling for his head now. And it's absolutely ridiculous because you can't go back and change the past and get Thomas Tuchel back. It's not going to happen. So the fact of the matter is we have Graham Potter. We know what he was coming into this job. We knew what a fantastic job he did with Brighton, turned that club into a very good football club who has some very bright young players. He had them playing magnificent football. So much so that even when he left, and he was managing Chelsea, and Brighton came to Chelsea and played us. Brighton played beautiful football and kicked our ass. They kicked our ass with Graham Potter at Chelsea's helm. So we know how well he did for Brighton. And, Brighton, that's not a big club. He got a lot of time to do what he needed to do. And I don't know if he can, I think eventually at some point he can make us play similar to that. But it's going to take time. It takes time to do these things. It takes multiple transfer windows. You have to get proper guys. You have to get guys to buy into your style of football. So it'd be utterly ridiculous to sack Graham Potter at this point. I think it would be a huge mistake because we're already too far in. We've made our decision. We got rid of Tuchel and we brought in Graham Potter. If we sack Graham Potter now, it's a disgrace. Todd Bowley, Brian, might be time to talk about. It's already time to go.
I don't think that we can't. Sadly, you can't sack owners.
You got to find a way at this point because if he makes that decision, it's an absolute
Look,
disgrace. Graham Potter.
If you found a way
stay.
to do it, then United would have done it with the Glaciers.
You're right about that, but my point is Graham Potter should stay. I don't think he's going to get sacked at least until the end of the season. But even I think if we sack him at the end of the season, it's still too early, way too early. You didn't even give this guy a real chance to succeed at the job, which would just be disappointing because I think, and I truly believe this, if we give Graham Potter the proper time, he can win us trophies. Whether it's the Premier League, whether it's the Champions League, whether it's some FA Cups, whatever, he can win us trophies. I think he can have us playing good football. But some people, they get caught up in the moment of how bad we're playing right now. And that's ultimately might be what happens to him because we all know Chelsea has a pedgree of doing this and sacking managers.
I'm looking at the schedule, man. It's atrocious. I mean, obviously 1-0 to City. Then they drew with Nottingham Forest. They were able to beat Bournemouth. Lost to Aston Villa 1-0. Lost Newcastle 1-0. Obviously lost to City 2-0 in the EFL. Lost to Arsenal. Able to be you beat Dinamino
Zagreb,
Zagreb,
Dynamo
Zagreb,
Zagreb.
that Dinamo Zagreb. I can't even pronounce their name, and then you lost 4-1 to Brighton. It's not it's not the greatest form of all time, but like
No.
I would agree with you that you know it's a personnel issue, not a manager issue. You just don't have good players. You have players playing absolutely horribly. Jorginho does not look good. I mean, Conte's been injured, so I mean you can't have him out there. You don't have a
Reece
nine.
James has been injured. That's arguably our best player. And look, that's
Yeah.
an issue. Our best player, you could make the argument. Reece James is our best player. He's the right back.
I saw that. I saw going on Twitter. It's like, oh, soon as we get Reece James back, he's gonna make we're gonna start playing good. You're counting on a right back to help you score more goals.
Yeah, no, it's
That's
true.
not how that works. I mean,
But that's
look,
who we rely on,
that's
genuinely.
yeah. I mean, realistically, yeah, he's the best player. But when you're having to rely on your right back to come in and fix your entire offense as well as being on the defensive end,
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. I mean, you have a personnel issue here,
yeah,
not a
100%
not a
agree with that.
managerial issue.
Yeah, Chelsea just has an issue with the squad at hand. It's going to take a couple transfer windows to get out some of the dead wood and bring in the players that are actually going to potentially play well. And you have to get a guy like Graham Potter who is going to get a chance to really build his squad up. And I think it wouldn't have made any sense to get Graham Potter if you weren't going to give him at least 2-3 seasons to get his guys in and really transform the club, because you knew he was going to be a project. He'd never managed a club this big. It was going to take time. So if we get rid of him now because of this bad run of form, it's just a rash
I
decision. And it's not his fault because these players are trash. They're not good.
I think most of that is just coming from just Chelsea fans that are kind of up sick of it. But I doubt the higher ups are really looking at this realistically to sack him. It's just something that's being brought up that I think is just ridiculous and always been a problem with football in general. Just they're not giving time for the managers.
So realistically, where do you think Chelsea will be come the end of the season?
I don't think I named them. I think I had them in Europa League. I think maybe Europa League or six. One of those. Down there. I
Like
don't think they're
you
making
think
top.
you think fifth or sixth, but
Yeah,
they'll
fifth or
climb up to
six.
then.
Yeah, I think fifth or six.
I mean, to be fair, at this point, based on what I'm seeing so far, if we made it into the Europa League, that's a W for us. I
That's
mean,
good.
I think we might
And
be
that's
heading for
that's
the.
another that's another thing that was underrated from Thomas Tuchel, that he was able to keep you guys afloat in the top four. Because look,
Yeah,
at at a point, I mean, compared to like other leagues, I think like a team in the Premier League making top four, that's almost a win in itself. I mean, that's an accomplishment. You made
it
top
is.
four in the Premier League. That's something that has to be held with some
And
type of
it
weight.
was it was an absolute masterpiece of a job to get us in that top four because it
No,
was
no,
looking
yeah, because
dire.
obviously his last season, it looked like they weren't gonna make it. It looked
And
like
then
I think
he pulled the rabbit
Arsenal
out
were
of the
gonna beat
hat.
them. Yeah, I mean,
He made it happen.
he made it happen, and obviously they they just didn't really weigh it that much, and now you're gonna see that how important and how difficult it is to make top four. I
Yeah.
mean, if they
Re-
didn't get that, I mean, I don't know how you don't get that. I mean, if you watch the Premier League, but
And that's why I think it was important to get Nkunku when we did, because I don't think we're getting Champions League. And if you waited to get Nkunku, I don't think he was going to join a club that didn't have Champions League football locked up, because we know how good this guy is. But my point is, at the end of this season, if we are in the Europa League spots, that's a good end to the season. That means we somewhat figured it out, maybe, because I think we'll at this point we're going to be lucky to make the Europa Conference League.
the
We might be
Conference
Conference
League,
League bound. I mean,
you could win that. It could be the first one in your club's history.
yeah, and
That's
but yeah,
good.
well, that's if you're gonna make light of a bad situation. If we win the Europa Conference League,
Oh God,
we would be the first club to have all three European trophies: the
look at
Champions League,
that.
Europa League, and the Conference League. But
Uh,
obviously, you don't
Ether,
want to
good
be in the
that.
Conference League right now. If the season ends today, we're not even in the Conference League. We're not even in the Conference League,
That's
bro.
not good.
You got to find a way to at least get in the Conference League. If we make it into Europa League, that's a win. I would take that because it's looking dire at the moment. That's how the mighty have fallen. I'm hoping for Europa League football. I mean, it's not looking good, but I think if I had to put money on it, I think we get Conference League. I don't even think we make Europa, but I hope it happens. I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right.
Oh, we'll just have to see.
Um, so is there anything else in the landscape of football? Whether it's the transfer business or anything that we wanted to touch on here.
I think nothing really else of major concern. I mean, other than Arsenal drew a game. Whoa, but it's not. It's not end of the. They're still 5 points clear, and I still think they're playing great football. So I mean,
And there are a lot of big games in the Premier League coming up. I think next week and the week after. For example, Man City, they play Manchester United and Tottenham in the next two games. Those are games we're going to want to touch on and preview. You can, keep a lookout for that on the channel because we're definitely going to talk about those games. But, it's a little bit far out now until that happens. We got some time. So, in terms of right now, there's we talked about the two biggest things in the Premier League, and there's so much new transfer business coming out, but it's still early in the window, so nothing really confirmed and concrete in terms of any big moves. So, we'll definitely be pumping out that content. I think, for a lot of people, hopefully that are watching this, the new subscribers, they've come from our the news reels that we post about transfers and stuff like that. So, we're going to give our opinion on some of this transfer business when it gets confirmed. So, you can just stay forward and look, stay tuned and look forward for that in the next episode. But
absolutely.
I think with that being said, we can go ahead and what is it? I don't even know what I'm
What are you trying
losing.
to say here?
I don't know. Go forward.
Transform, or
I
you
guess
transform
transform.
it. It's a dumbass.
Go forward to the next type of football, the American football. This is the moment we've all been waiting for with American football here. This is
The
it.
last week.
The
This
last
is
week
it.
of the regular season. It's kind of crazy because we've been talking about this whole season on the pod since the kind of like the beginning of the pod, and it's over. It's almost over. The regular season is almost over. We have made it to week 18. We've done pick'ems for every single week of the NFL season. It's absolutely incredible that it's here. It's sad, but it's also it's good because this is when NFL gets really good. This is when it gets juicy, and I'm glad that it's here. But before I go any further, I would like to offer my condolences to DeMar Hamlin, the whole situation, his family, because that was obviously a horrible moment. It was breathtaking, but in a bad way because
That's I'm about to say
it's
that's a weird way to word it.
because it took I didn't even know what to say. It was just it was
It was
sad.
just really
It was
shocking.
almost traumatizing to a certain extent. Like I didn't even know what to say. That's why we didn't talk about it much or whatever. But I didn't really even know what to say about it. I will offer my full condolences to his family.
Fortunately, they reported that he's awake. He's breathing on his own, and it just shows the character. This guy's a gangster, dude. He woke up and said, "Did we win?"
For real,
I
bro.
mean,
That shit was crazy.
this guy is he lives in infamy as just I mean, this is what the NFL is full of, just these guys that are just dogs. I mean, this guy, he's built of the right stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, obviously, that game ended up getting canceled. It has a lot of playoff implication. They're switching it up how the playoffs is even going to work, based on that game. But I'm glad that they didn't end up playing that game because
No, yeah,
there was no need to play that game based on
absolutely
what
not.
happened. The number one thing that mattered was DeMar Hamlin being okay and healthy, and it's looking like now, fortunately, that will be the case. Obviously, that's amazing news. It's I give my shout out to those doctors who were able to do that, and the medical staff on the field who gave him CPR. That guy's a hero, an absolute hero.
Yeah, but absolutely. I mean, it it's a big relief because I mean right after it happened, we didn't we no one knew what was happening. No one knew what
Yeah,
was going on, and we didn't know. God forbid the worst. What does this have to do? What does this do to the sport, to the entire, the whole sport in general? But it was just hopefully this is the only time ever something ever similar will ever happen like this ever again.
yeah,
This is just a freak
a
accident,
freak
and
accident.
we these players stay safe because they do a lot for the people. They do a lot for the country in general. I mean, to
Their
go
communities,
in
everything.
their communities to go out there and put their health on the line like this. I mean, people don't really get that football takes so much out of you, and it's just the most like damaging sport to your body, mentally and physically. And I
Yeah,
think, it could be a good reminder just to people to appreciate the game more, appreciate what these guys are willing to do. You know, I mean, it's kind of I'm bad to say it, but for our entertainment. I mean, they go out there and they sacrifice themselves for
Yeah,
our
no, but
entertainment. I mean,
football is it's entertainment at the end of the day. It's what it is.
yeah, and I mean, uh, I'm obviously thank God he's okay, and I hope he can make a recovery. And whatever he chooses to do, if he chooses to keep playing, if he chooses to do whatever he does, I hope he finds great, great,
Success.
great good success. I couldn't
Yeah.
think of the word success. What's wrong with me?
But obviously, with all of that being said, the game is going to continue this week. There was talks about postponing Week 18. There was talks about adding another playoff team. So many talks about what was going to
Yeah.
happen with this season. Ultimately, there's not going to be an eighth playoff team. I got my hopes up a little bit as a Dolphins fan. They're not
The
doing that,
Dolphins.
unfortunately. So Week 18 is going to go on just as as if it was normal. Obviously, it's not exactly normal, but as if it was, that's what's going to happen. So I think we can go ahead and move forward into our Week 18 picks, and then
The final one.
go ahead and talk about what we think is going to happen with these final few playoff spots. So
Absolutely.
if you're ready to get into it, we got Week 18 NFL Pick'em, the final one of the regular season. If you're ready, I'm ready.
Let's go.
Chiefs versus Raiders. I'm taking the Chiefs.
I'm taking the Chiefs.
Titans versus Jaguars. Give me the Jags.
I'll take the Titans.
Browns versus Steelers. I take the Browns.
I'll take the Browns.
Ravens versus Bengals. I'm taking the Bengals.
I'm taking the Bengals.
Vikings versus Bears. I'm taking the Vikings.
I'll take the Vikings.
Patriots versus Bills. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills.
Taking the Bills.
Jets versus Dolphins. Taking the Dolphins.
I'll take the Dolphins.
Oi!
Of course, I'll take the Dolphins.
Bucks versus Falcons. I'll take the Bucks.
I'll take the Bucks.
Panthers versus Saints. I'll take the Panthers.
Panthers.
Texans versus Colts. I'll take the. Oh man, I'll take the Colts.
I'll take the Colts too.
Cardinals versus 49ers. I'm taking the 49ers.
The 49ers.
Cowboys versus Commanders. Taking the Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Rams versus Seahawks. I'm taking the Seahawks here.
Yeah, the Seahawks.
Giants versus Eagles. I'll take the Eagles.
Take the Eagles.
And then Chargers versus Broncos. Go ahead and take the Chargers.
I'll take the Chargers.
And then Lions versus Packers. Sunday Night Football. What a game this is going to be. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers.
I'm taking the Detroit Lions.
Wow. So based on how some of we picked these results, y'all can kind of piece together what you think our playoff is going to look like here. But so the first one that is up for grabs in this, so basically there's 3 playoff berths up for grabs, 2 in the AFC, 1 in the NFC. And the first one we're going to go ahead and talk about is the AFC South. This is obviously going to be who gets the 4th seed in the AFC playoffs. Whoever wins this game between the Titans and the Jags is going to get a home playoff game. They know that, and although their records might not be the best, they're going to win their division. Whoever wins this game, it's basically winner takes all. So you went ahead and picked the Titans to win this game. I picked the Jags to win this game. So we disagree, and I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to you first. Why did you pick the Titans, and why do you think they will end up being the AFC South champion?
I think I picked them because of experience. I mean, this is a team that's led by Mike Vrabel, and I trust him to, make the right choices and win this game. I think it's going to be very close, but I think if I were to take one team, I mean, I think it's a flip of a coin, but if I'm going to trust one team to do it, I'm going to trust a team that's been to the playoffs multiple times, who's, kind of used to always making the playoffs, and that's going to be the Tennessee Titans. I think they're a little bit better defensively. They haven't been the greatest they've been this season. That's not definitely the best Titans teams we've seen.
Yeah.
They've been very poor, but
they
this
got a
Jags
losing record
team
at the moment.
But this Jags team is, they have weird spikes of, whoa, this team plays really good. Like it's an offensive explosion. And then, next week they score like 0 points or 3 points or something. Like
Yeah.
they're like the ultimate of like, wishy-washy teams. And I mean, they've both been kind of poor, but, if I had to, I mean, I could see the Jags winning this game. I mean, the Jags can, put in an offensive masterclass and just, blow them out. But I think this is going to be a real hard-nosed win. I think it's going to, be no nonsense, defensive game from the Tennessee Titans. Are going to try and make this a low scoring game. And if I were to say, I would go with a Titans win 13-10.
Wow, really,
I think it's gonna be a
really
low
low
scoring
scoring.
game. Yeah, I
Really,
don't see a lot of points. I mean, I that's just what I think, but I could be proven wrong.
yeah. I think. Look, based on experience, the Titans definitely have more postseason experience, more experience in big games, and that is a very underrated aspect in terms of the NFL. A lot of the times, the moment can get too big for some young players, and that ultimately causes them to have a bad game. And a lot of these Titans players have been in even bigger games than this. I mean, this is basically any other game for Derrick Henry and a lot of these guys who have pretty much been to the playoffs consistently the last, I think, 3 seasons. They've won their division and they've been in the playoffs. And a couple seasons they were competing for the number one seed. I mean, they were the best team in the AFC. So this team definitely has the experience, and the Jags pretty much have no experience. But I think that overall, the Jags are the better team. They have the better quarterback, and they have more weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Although the Titans have arguably the best weapon the in in the NFL offensively speaking, with Derrick Henry, who we all know how good this guy is. We know that any given Sunday, well, technically they're playing on Saturday, so any given game, this guy can go off for 250 yards as a running back, get 3 touchdowns, and absolutely game break your team. It's been prone to happen, and I think that's exactly what the Titans are going to do. They're going to ride Derrick Henry like they've never ridden him before. They're going to absolutely pound the rock and hope that the Jags can't stop it. And you know, I think it's not going to be quite as low scoring as you picked it, but I do think it's not going to be an offensive masterclass per se. It's going to be a very close game, maybe not quite as low scoring, but I think the Jags make enough plays when it matters. I really like the way Trevor Lawrence has been playing. I think he's going to really cement himself as one of those top guys in terms of young quarterbacks in the league, because I think he can take this Jags team to the playoffs. This season when nobody really expected it, people were counting them out. They've turned their season around. Nobody really expected this to happen. And I think the Jags keep this fairy tale rolling. I think it's going to be a close game. If I'm picking, I'm going to say 24-20 Jags. I think Trevor Lawrence has a couple more moments of magic. I think just because they have a pretty good defense and they got a strong wide receiver core, Trevor Lawrence playing really good football right now, and ultimately Travis Etienne is a very good running back. This Jags offense is very good, very underrated, and as long as they do not make big mistakes, like throwing picks and fumbling and things like that, and giving the Titans more opportunities, they should win this game. But that's where what you said, game experience, kind of comes into it. And if the moment gets a little bit too big for Trevor Lawrence, that's where the interceptions start to come in. That's where the fumbles start to come in, and that's what's going to give the Titans a chance to win this game. But I don't think that's going to happen. Give me the Jags winning this game.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Like I said, it's a flip of a coin game. I mean, it makes it exciting. It's basically a playoff game already. I
It
mean,
is,
it's
yeah.
win or go home.
That is literally a playoff game, and Derrick Henry is fully rested. Like both of these teams were resting players because they knew this game was the one for him. Derrick Henry didn't play last week against the Cowboys. They gave him a full week's rest to prepare him for the Jags, and they know it's up to him. The quarterback position ain't looking good. It's up to Derrick Henry to carry this team. He's done it before. Can he do it for one more time? Take this team to the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out tomorrow. Tomorrow at this time when we're recording at 8:20. It's gonna start. So that is going to be a very interesting game how it all plays out. But moving forward to the other AFC playoff berth that is up for grabs, the 7th seed in the AFC is between 3 teams, and all 3 have a realistic chance to make it. Some things are going to have to go right for, the Dolphins and the Steelers, but all 3 of these teams have a realistic chance to make it going into Sunday. So we all know by now it's between the New England Patriots, the Miami Dolphins, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one off to you. You, based on your predictions that you picked, if the Patriots lose, which we both predicted it, and the Dolphins win, they will make the playoffs. So why do you think the Dolphins are going to find a way to get it done and make the playoffs as the seventh seed?
I think it just comes down to the matchups that are left. I mean, the Pats have to run up against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, will it be a full strength Buffalo Bills? I wouldn't say that. Are they going to be playing, like their life depends on it? No, but I mean, it's still the Bills versus the Pats. I mean, we know how good the Bills are. To me, this comes down to more of who the Pats have to play more than the Dolphins as a whole team, because the Dolphins have been poor this season. I mean, from being that 8-3 team to what we thought would be a for sure playoff lock into them struggling and clawing to make the playoffs. That says a lot. But the Dolphins are playing the Jets. I mean, the Jets are not not very good. I mean, compared to what the Pats have to play. I mean, you choose which one you rather play, the Jets or the Bills. I mean, that to me that's an easy decision. But
Yeah.
I think is Tua I think Tua set to come back here or no?
No,
Is he still
no.
out? He's still out.
Skylar
I mean,
Thompson.
Skylar Thompson. I mean, e- even though obviously I think this still comes down to one team has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, has the offensive, still has those receivers. Like I said, I think even anybody, me and you could be thrown in there. We can make it work, with that type of wide receiver weapons. But I mean, especially against the Jets. I mean, it's the Jets, so I'm gonna give that to the Dolphins and the Steelers. I just don't really, yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen
We
either.
both had them losing to the they play the Browns this week. You know,
Yeah,
and
I'm losing
but
the Browns.
the only way the Steelers even have a chance is if they win, and then the Pats and Dolphins both lose. You know, so it could happen, but basically the Dolphins, they kind of control their destiny if they win, because I don't think the Patriots are going to win. So basically, the Dolphins win, they should make it, and ultimately that is what we both expect to happen. But I mean, look, for me, how many times have I come on here in the recent weeks and picked the Dolphins
Oh
and
God.
been wrong? But one last dance. I gotta go with them again. I got no other choice here. I gotta rock with them. First of all, I like our matchup. The Jets, they got nothing to play for. The coach Robert Saleh has come out and said he would love to make Mike McDaniel come to Cancun with him. He said that he would love to make him sit on the pool with him, and you know that may end up being the case. But the Jets, they don't have anything to play for, and the Dolphins, they still are the better football team, even without Tua. They have more weapons. They have a decent defense that hasn't been playing that great, but you don't need to be the 85 Bears defense to stop this Jets offense, because it's absolutely ass. It's just not a good offense. So it's going to be another low scoring game. And look, Skylar Thompson, in every performance he's had for the Dolphins, has been absolutely terrible. He's not good. But this is also the first time that he's going to be getting a full week of reps, of first team reps, of specially designed plays for him, so that the best way to succeed. And I think that's an underrated thing. When you're going to be the starter the whole week leading up to the game, the coach is going to make special adjustments to the offense to make it succeed around you. And this playbook for this week is specially designed for Skylar Thompson. They're going to find a way to play to his strengths, which there aren't that many of, but there are some.
Not a lot of
And
them.
I think that they get enough. They make enough things happen. They find a way to get Tyreek Hill the ball in multiple different ways, whether that's as a running back, end around, screen passes, quick slants. They're gonna find a way to get those guys with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle the ball in multiple different ways, and in safe ways that Skylar Thompson doesn't have to be like Tua, because he's not Tua. He can't do the throws that Tua can make, but he just needs to play relatively mistake-free football, get the ball to the playmakers, and then we can win this game. And that's what Coach McDaniel is going to do. I believe that he's going to put together a good game plan around Skylar Thompson, which is the first time he's going to get that opportunity, and I think he can make it happen. realistically, if I had to put a score prediction on that Dolphins Jets game, it's going to be another low scoring
I
game.
think it's going to be low scoring.
But I'm going to say 2017 Dolphins get the win there.
2017. That's funny.
20 to
But
17.
yeah, I would have to agree that's going to be somewhere around that range. But I do see the Dolphins taking this in a close game.
Yeah. So we got in the AFC finishing out. You have the Titans and the Dolphins making it, and then I have the Jags and the Dolphins making it. Obviously, next week or whatever, the next episode, we'll talk about our playoff predictions and all of that. Once it's all officially locked in, this is our final predictions. But in the NFC, there is one final position up for grabs. Everything is locked in going into this final week, except for one, the 7th seed in the NFC, and it's coming down to 3 teams. And to be fair, when the season started, we expected the Packers to be in the playoffs, but we didn't expect it to be potentially like this. And the Lions and Seahawks, those are the other 2 teams competing for it. They have come out of nowhere. We expected those teams to be trash. They're pretty good. So, out of the Packers, Lions, and Seahawks, I forget who we picked in the pick'em, but who do you think is going to make the playoffs out of this bunch?
I think, shockingly enough, I think I would have to give to me, it's between the Lions and the Seahawks. I don't think the Packers are going to make it. I said
because if the Packers have to win, and you pick
the
the Lions
Packers,
to
and
win.
I picked the Lions to win, and I also picked the Seahawks to win. I mean, so it comes down to one of those teams. I 100% forget how. So
if the Lions win, I'm
and
pretty sure they have the tiebreaker.
Okay, yeah. So then I have to say the Lions then, even though I kind of think as a football team, the Seahawks are a bit better. But I think that due to obviously dropping games of the past, they're going to be out of it if the Lions win. And I just think, surprisingly, the Lions might make the playoffs. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought the Lions would be in the playoffs?
Lions are a good team.
They played well against the Packers earlier this season. I mean, they were smashing them. I forget what it was. It was a complete shock.
It was a pathetic performance for the Packers.
It was I think that was the game where we came on and said the Packers weren't going to make the playoffs. So I'm going to have to stick to what I said. The Packers aren't making the playoffs. Give me the Detroit Lions in winning a close game. I think this is going to not. I don't think this will be as low scoring. I mean, we've talked about wish-washy teams. I mean, what's more wish-washy team than the Lions? I mean, didn't one game they scored like 50 or 48 points or something like this? This team can explode for a lot of points, or they can put in an absolute stinker and not play well. But the Packers have been playing really well. I mean, to be fair, the Packers have somewhat turned it around, and they could sneak into the playoffs. But I'm going to stick to what I said earlier this season, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Give me the Detroit Lions.
We have been getting flamed in the comments recently because we talked about the Green Bay Packers at length multiple times during this season. And when they were 4-8, we came on here and we said they were done. This was it. They aren't making the playoffs. We posted a YouTube short about it, and people are pulling the receipts. They are pulling up the receipts of us writing off the Packers, saying they were done. Against all odds, they have found a way to make it to this point. They've pulled off 4 wins on the trot. They get to 8-8, and if they win this game against the Lions, they're in. No matter what happens with the Seahawks. The Packers, it's win and you're in. And, I originally said earlier this season the Packers weren't making it. But now that it's gotten to this point, they're 8-8. If they win, they're in. I think the Green Bay Packers are making the playoffs. I am not betting against Aaron Rodgers right now.
I'm betting against Aaron Rodgers.
He is playing great football. He's looking like the guy we expected him to be at the start of the season when the Packers were playing trash. It took him a second, and they have finally played the football we expected them to play. And this is the exact opposite of what you have seen typically from the Green Bay Packers. Normally, they're a great regular season team, and everyone's picking them to potentially make the Super Bowl, and then they choke in the playoffs. But this season, they have not been good in the regular season. But when it matters most, when their backs were against the wall, they have found a way to put themselves in a position to win these games. And now they have a realistic chance to make the playoffs. And I think they are going to do it. I think it's going to be a close game against the Lions because the Lions are a good team. This is a team that, they can score the ball. Their defense is not that great. I mean, it's pretty bad. I think it's one of the
Yeah,
worst in
it's
the
not the
league.
greatest.
But this team can score just like any great offense could. It's pretty much, if you're looking at this Lions team, it's going to come down to how well their defense plays against this Green Bay offense. And Green Bay to me is a more complete football team. They have a good offense. It's come on now, later on to the season compared to the early season struggles. And they have a really solid defense. They have great DBs. Jair Alexander is coming off of absolutely locking up the best receiver in the
Yeah,
game, Justin
Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson. He locked him up, put him in his pocket. I think he might still be in there. So I think that the Packers are able to stop the Lions offense enough times. And I don't think that the Detroit defense is going to do it enough times against Aaron Rodgers. I think that the Packers win this game not too comfortably, but relatively comfortably. I think they're going to win this by 10 points. I think it's going to be like a 30-20 game. A somewhat comfortable win for the Packers. They're going to get this done and they're going to make the playoffs.
You know, it could happen. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think I'm just gonna be sticking to what I said earlier. I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm gonna die on that hill.
The people are going to come for us again.
They're not gonna be happy, but
The Packers
I've
fans are not going to be happy with you. Jonathan ain't going to be happy.
Jonathan ain't gonna be happy, but I've seen crazier shit happen. So I'm gonna stick to what I said, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, I mean, you win some and you lose some.
But one more talking point I think about the Packers here. There's been a debate going on. And let's just assume, even though you didn't pick it to happen, let's just assume they find a way to sneak into the playoffs here. They beat the Lions. Like I predicted, but you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this Packers team can make any kind of noise in the playoffs? Can they upset a team? Can they, I think they're going to be playing the number 2 seed. That would be maybe the Vikings or no, the 49ers. Do you think they can do anything in the playoffs? Basically, my point. Can the Packers do anything in the playoffs? Make some kind of noise? Make a run?
Christ, no. Absolutely not. I mean, playing the 49ers? I mean, dude, I know you're kind of brought the question, but I'm gonna answer it like you're the one believing it. There's not a shot in hell that the Packers would beat the 49ers. I mean, this is a team that doesn't, do the upsets. This is the team that are on the bad side of the upset. They're the ones that usually give it up. I mean, they went and played last season. They played the 49ers when MVP Aaron Rodgers, you have Devontae Adams, you have, a better offense of what they do now. And they found a way to lose to Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think this 49ers team is better than what they were last year. I think their defense has now fully come out as they're, 1A to the Cowboys defense of 1B. I think they're up there tied with the best defense in football. And for me to expect the Green Bay Packers to be able to upset that's not happening. Look, if that somehow happens, I'll never bet against Aaron Rodgers ever again in my life. But from what I've seen,
holding you to that.
From what I've seen from this guy in the playoffs, maybe if this is the regular season, maybe last season, I'll give it to you. But this is the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers plays not even half as what he does in the playoffs as he does in the regular season. That's just the truth of it. He's always underperformed. That's why last year he was called Aaron Frogers. That's why it was trending on Twitter. This guy does not show up in the playoffs when his team needs him the most. He's too busy doing ayahuasca. He's too, his head's somewhere else looking like, Nicolas Cage for Halloween. This is what this guy is. This guy is not a big game player. That's not what he is. And he's not going to do in the playoffs. He's barely been doing in the regular season. He's only now just catching on a little bit. But in the playoffs, no. Against the 49ers, absolutely not.
I respect your opinion here. But there's a very important thing to be noted about the NFL. And this is something that always seems to come true. We saw it last season, and we might see it again this season. It's not always about who's the better team on paper and things like that. It's about who catches fire at the right time. And the Packers have caught fire. If they win this game against the Detroit Lions, they would have won 5 games in a row going into the playoffs. That is a team you don't want to play. When you're look, I don't care if you're the Vikings, you're the 49ers, the Eagles. This Packers team is not the team you want to play come playoff time. It is just not. This team has caught fire. Their defense is looking strong. Their offense is looking better. And they have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Aaron Rodgers, who you never want to play against. I don't care if it's the regular
I want to
season, the
play
playoff.
against him in the
You
playoffs.
you don't want to play against Aaron Rodgers. You just don't. We know what he can do on any given Sunday. All things considered, this is a scary team because they have caught fire. It's the exact opposite of a lot of teams. A lot of teams, for example, we'll take the Dolphins. If they make the playoffs, they've lost 5 in a row, and then they would have won one game against the Jets, and they sneak in. You're okay with playing them because this is a defeated team. They've been beaten up over and over again. They somehow made it. The Packers, they are feeling good. They have caught fire 5 games in a row. If they win against the Lions, you don't want to play that team. This is a team that has the swagger, and they think that they would be able to go anywhere on the road in the NFC and make some noise. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying they're going to beat the 49ers or the Vikings or
I mean,
the
you're giving
Eagles.
this entire like spiel and
But
soliloquy. If it
but I'm
sounds like
saying
you're gonna say the Green Bay Packers,
I'm saying they have a possibility, and no team in the NFC playoffs wants to play the Green Bay Packers. That is a fact. Nobody wants to play them because they have caught fire.
I don't think the
And
49ers care.
when you add that onto the fact they have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, you do not want to play the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. And that's what it is. I bet those teams are hoping the Lions or Seahawks make it. That they're
Dude,
hoping.
they, look, if you think the only team I'd be looking at this is the 49ers. You think the 49ers care at all? Absolutely. The 49ers, the
I think they
49ers
care.
think I don't think they care at all because they played a better Packers team last season and they
That's
spanked
last
them.
season. That's last season. Look,
Okay,
this season. Look, did we or did we not see a Bengals team that caught fire last season make a Super Bowl run?
yeah, but is this not what we've seen from the Packers consistently? That when they go in the playoffs, they're just not the same team.
We
There's
cannot
something that always
compare.
happens. Yeah,
I don't think we can
look.
compare.
Okay, well,
Other
we're
previous seasons,
last
Packers,
season's
they,
was Aaron Rodgers MVP season.
they
That's the
had
peak of Aaron Rodgers.
they had all the expectations. They were the number 1 seed. They were supposed to go far. They're playing with house money. They have caught fire and they're playing with house money. They're the 7 seed. They can make some noise.
Seed.
If they make it, they can make some noise because they're playing with house money. No one is expecting them to go beat the 49ers. It's the reverse of what happened last season. Nobody expected the 49ers to go into Lambeau and beat that Packers team. But that's exactly what happened because the 49ers, they caught fire. They were playing good at the right time. That's exactly what's happening with this Green Bay team.
Are the 49ers not on fire right now? Are they
They're
not?
playing good. They're playing good. But
I mean,
it would be a close game between them and the Packers. I'm not picking a winner
I'm not
yet.
I'm not gonna deny that it would be, it could possibly be a close game. I just think it's for sure the 49ers are going to win. I think
if it's a close game, it's not for sure.
I think no matter what, the 49ers win. I mean, if they win by a close game or they win by a blowout, it's going to be a 49ers coming out the other side just because
I'm just saying
they're
you don't want to play this team.
You do want to play this team because they have Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. I mean, I like to play that team, but it's the 49ers. Like you said, you were saying this 49ers team could be the greatest defense you've ever seen.
They could be.
And you think a Green Bay team without Devonta Adams, with an Aaron Rodgers that's not an MVP, that hasn't had near half the season he did in the past 2 years, is going to do something against this team? Against it. You've seen what they've been able to do.
Look, we have seen it in the past. Teams like the 7 seed. Look, the Baltimore Ravens, when they won the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, they were a wild card team. They were not a great football team, but they
you didn't have to go that far. I mean, I guess if you want to bring up the past, you could talk about the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks were a wild card team.
They were a wild card. They caught fire at the right time.
Yeah.
It's not crazy.
Yeah, but except more recent history. I mean, I brought up the past with the 49ers and you weren't okay with it, but I guess it's okay to bring up the past when we
I'm
talk about
bringing
the
up I'm
Ravens.
bringing up previous examples of teams that have caught fire
But
when it's
I'm
good and
I'm
then
bringing you
made a run.
examples of this exact team performing poorly in the playoffs consistently. Because this is the same team, this is almost the same core of players that underperform in the playoffs. This is what they're known to do. And look, let's just break it down to maybe percentages. Let's say the Packers go in there, they have a 60 to 80 60% chance of underperforming and a 40% chance of performing well. I'm taking the 60% because from what we've seen, they've always underperformed. And
But
I'm
the
gonna
thing
go
is,
on. I'm gonna lay on my
it's
percentage.
look, I'm not going to deny that the Packers have consistently underperformed in the playoffs, but that's when they have all of the expectations. They're every single time the Packers have been in the playoffs recently, and you can't deny this. They are expected to win. They are expected to make the Super Bowl. Am I wrong?
No,
Okay. This season, as the 7th seed, they would be making it as a 9-8 team. They do not have super high expectations. So
I
they're
think I think no matter what, if you have Aaron Rodgers, there's always going to be a certain amount of expectations. I I don't know. I don't think it's as simple as
So
comparing
you're
it
saying
to like the
so you're
Bengals.
saying that what exactly is the expectation for a 7 seed wild card playoffs Packers team? What is the expectation?
There's a lot of people that are going to be looking at it the same way you are. Oh, this team's caught fire and they have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever. Some people say the greatest thrower of the football ever. So anything can happen. They're going to give Aaron Rodgers a shot, but
That's
I'm
what I'm
not
doing.
giving him a shot. No, how you're making it seem like you. I mean, I'm surprised you're just not all outright saying, yeah, the Packers are going to win. They got this in the bag because that's what it
I'm
sounds
not
like you're
I'm
trying
not
to
ready to
say.
make playoff
But
predictions until the
yeah,
playoffs is locked
not
in.
yet. We'll make a separate video on that. But
I
I
might
can't.
pick them though. I might pick them. I
Oh
might.
my! Look, I'm not because you even brought up the Bengals. I'm not comparing this to the Bengals because obviously the Bengals were a better team than what they were when they made a Super Bowl, and they didn't have, they just we haven't really seen them that much in it. But I trust Joe Burrow plays the same way as he does in the playoffs, unlike Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I'm not going to go out here and compare careers or nothing, but from what we've seen, Joe Burrow has played in the little bit he's played better in the playoffs than Aaron Rodgers has.
Rodgers has a Super Bowl.
Dude, what in a galaxy far, far away ago? That was like 50 years
But
ago. Look, I'm
that's
talking
his
about
legacy.
this is recent. This is call me recency bias, but I'm just saying recently, in the past like three seasons, we've seen the Green Bay underperform, and I'm not going to compare it to how the Bengals just caught fire because they're just different. Those are different things.
But you can't deny that this Green Bay team has caught fire.
Yeah, I mean, for them to
So
flip their
that's
season around is
exactly.
it's remarkable.
So
But
that would assume that you don't want to play this team in the playoffs because they have found a way to turn it around. They're feeling good. They're confident. They've turned it around. They caught fire at the right time.
yeah, yes and no, because I still think that they're Green Bay Packers. I mean, if this were any other team,
Oh
I would
my
say I would agree
god.
with you. But this team is notoriously known for underperforming in the playoffs. So I'm just gonna lay on that. I'm gonna die on that hill. Leave me to die on my hill alone.
We're gonna be. Look, if the Packers win this week, next week, hopefully we can get Jonathan on, and we're gonna have the same conversation again. And I'm gonna. I might.
Oh
I
my!
might pick the
I
Packers.
might
I
look.
might.
We're saying all this. We're having this discussion, and they might not even make the playoffs. This could
They
be
might
all
not.
useless.
But I think that they are, bro. There's no way that if there's no way the Packers have done all
There's
this just to lose to the Lions when it matters most.
I would when it matters most. I mean, I've heard that a lot, and usually attached to that statement, it's usually Aaron Rodgers underperforms. So we will see.
I don't think he's gonna underperform. Like
I don't know. We'll see.
it's gonna
I
be
mean,
interesting to
it's
see.
fair. You gotta admit the Green Bay Packers just happened to get lucky. I mean, they're playing a Dolphins team that just happened to crash and burn. I mean, and when we were talking about this midseason, I mean, it was the Dolphins 8-3, baby. I mean, no, yes, there's no way they could lose and then lose, and then you play against a Vikings team that you've said yourself is fraudulent, and I didn't think they were as fraudulent, and they were, but
They're
this
pretty
team is
fraudulent though.
they're frauds. I mean, realistically, I mean,
Okay. That's it.
you know,
The Vikings are going to make the playoffs.
they're gonna make the
They're
playoffs. Yeah.
locked in. So we can't exactly predict their matchup or anything like that. But do you give them any shot of making a run in the playoffs in terms of maybe an NFC Championship run or a Super Bowl run?
No, what? Oh my God, no. I think even before when they had all the hype, I only ever said they have. I only really rate them to get out the first round. I see them maybe winning a game, but that's all I've ever had. Even at the peak of their, all the Vikings need more respect. I mean, Vikings fans were flooding the ESPN, Instagram post saying the Vikings should be Super Bowl contenders. No, you guys shouldn't. Stop. This is silly. This is hogwash. I mean, you guys but you played well. I'll give you that. But it's fraudulent. You guys played a lot of, iffy teams. You got some good wins. I mean, against the Bills, you've gotten good wins, but you cannot get blown out like you did versus the Cowboys. You can't get blown out like you did versus the Green Bay Packers, a Green Bay Packers team that is literally just had to, flip the script. They look dead in the water. You can't have those losses and then also be looked as a team that could make the Super Bowl. That's just not how it works.
Yeah, and the thing with the Vikings is, you know, they have won so many close games, and they have like I forget the statistic, but they were pretty much almost every single game that they've played this season. A lot of their wins have been one score games that they've come out on the right end of.
And
You can
yeah, a
only
lot of them have been comebacks. I mean, they've been remarkable comebacks, but
you can only do that
you
for
know,
so long. You can only
yeah,
get
I
away
mean,
with that for so long.
you get caught out like you did versus the Green Bay Packers and the Cowboys. I mean, to the point where you put yourself in a hole, and now you're having to expect it to get out of this again, especially against teams that can catch fire like the Cowboys and right now Green Bay.
Yeah. Look, I agree with what you're saying. I think I've said it for a while that the Vikings were frauds. They're not going to really make a bunch of noise in the playoffs. I agree. They might win their first game.
They
They
might
might
win a
win,
playoff game.
but I wouldn't be surprised if they lose their first playoff game. Like it's not shocking to me that I don't know who they're going to play, but this team, they are not incredible. They are not so much above and beyond better than every other team. I think if the season ended today, they'd be playing the Giants. They might beat the Giants because the Giants aren't
They
that
could beat
great.
the Giants. Yeah, they could beat the
But
Giants.
when the Vikings are going to be asked to play against the Cowboys or the Eagles or an upper echelon team in the NFC, I don't think they can get it done. I don't think it's going to happen, and that is ultimately the story of the Vikings. They might win a playoff game, but push comes to shove, they aren't making the NFC Championship game. They aren't making the Super Bowl. They're not making noise in the playoffs. They're going to be a potentially one and done team. They might get a win, but that's all they got. That's all she wrote for the Vikings. They gotta
Yeah.
they have a great overall kind of core of players, but they still have some issues they need to work on within that team. Kirk Cousins is only going to take you so far. He's
I
not the
mean,
greatest quarterback in the world,
yeah,
but
yeah, you have a transcendent player in Justin Jefferson who was on a lot of people's MVP conversation. Like this
yep.
guy has had uh like a record breaking season. I mean, off the
If I
charts.
think I think if he gets like 190 yards, which is unlikely, but if he does, he would break the single season receiving record.
Yeah, we thought Tyreek Hill was going to do that, and it turns out,
The only reason he didn't though was because of the quarterback injuries that with the
yeah,
Dolphins.
that was
Unfortunate, but
unfortunately, but Justin Jefferson to come out of nowhere and to put himself in there, it's still a long shot, but you know that plays in a lot of that. The Vikings just so happen to have the greatest weapon in the NFL.
yeah, they have a great future, but the Vikings, they are not
They
going
have
to
some stuff
make
they got to
noise.
fix.
They're not going to make noise this playoff run. But anytime you got a guy like Justin Jefferson, as long as you keep him, you sign him to a contract and you keep him for the long term, you're looking good for the future. But not this year. It ain't the Vikings' year. I'm not backing them to do anything really in the playoffs. They're frauds. That's just what it is.
Yeah, I would have to, this whole season I've been saying no. I don't think they're frauds. I mean, it depends what you think is like.
A
What
fraud.
to you is a fraud? As I also someone that completely. I never took them as a Super Bowl contender, so I wouldn't really say they're frauds. I mean, they're kind of what I thought they would be.
Would be.
But in the sense of what you're saying, that people wanted to expected them to have them up there to make the Super Bowl, I would say yeah, they would be frauds then.
And obviously, look, this is a conversation that we'll probably have again next week when we have the full matchups, and we're gonna literally go matchup by matchup in the playoffs and tell you who we're picking and things of that nature. And then, we probably revisit this conversation then when we know for sure who they're playing. But and then you can say that about the rest of these teams because we didn't get into depth about the Bills, we didn't get into depth about the Chiefs. We're gonna go ahead and save that for when we get to next week when we know who they're playing in the playoffs, and then we'll go ahead and talk about those types of teams and what we think their future is and their fate ultimately in the playoffs is.
Absolutely, man. We'll be looking out for that video. It's going to be its own little thing, similar to what we did for the World Cup. We're going to be having our own separate video, just completely going through our, basically who's going to win it all.
Yeah, and then hopefully we do better than we did at the World Cup.
I mean, we didn't do that bad. I mean, we got what I
But
think we essentially getting
easier.
50%.
It's probably easier to predict the NFL though. Like the World Cup. I mean, we
Yeah.
went from the group
No,
stage.
the World Cup is very difficult to predict because there's just random shit thrown in there, like it's
You
kind
can't
of
really predict.
yeah. But I mean, the same could be said about football in a certain extent,
Yeah,
a little
because
bit.
because I might pick the Packers.
Not picking the fucking Packers.
But I think with all that being said, unless there's anything else in the NFL you wanted to touch on, we can go ahead and ultimately wrap this one up.
Yeah, I think we're good to wrap this one up.
So look, first order of business before we get into the fully wrapping it up, I wanted to announce that going forward, we should be we're gonna be uploading our videos on Wednesday, correct?
Wednesday.
Exactly.
Well, no, we
So
record them Wednesday and they get uploaded Thursday.
you're right. So every Thursday from here on in, we should have a pod being uploaded. Be more consistent about that, and then stay tuned on the channel or in your subscription box for other videos, any one-off videos we make, such as our playoff predictions, or if big news happens, we got to hop on and make a video. We'll do that. But every Thursday, we're gonna try to lock that in as our consistent pod date.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously, once again, just wanted to thank everyone for the continued support we've been getting. We've been pretty much gaining multiple subscribers every day. We broke the 500 barrier, and now we're all the way up to 522. Who knows what we're going to be at by the time the next episode. Enter in the 500 subscriber giveaway in the comments if you haven't already, because why not? It's free money.
We need 2 more people. We need 2 more guys. Just need
Go
2
ahead
more people.
go ahead and enter in that in the comments below. But I think with all that being said, unless you got anything you wanted to say.
I mean, I think you already touched upon the things I wanted to say. I think we're good.
So once again, thanks everyone for the continued support. This was episode 38. We're gonna have more content, more episodes
First
coming out very
episode
soon.
of the new year.
First episode of the new year. Just wanted to thank everyone for the continued support. But I'm your co-host Zach.
I'm your co-host G.
And we'll see y'all next time, episode 39. Peace.